everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Strike Noise, your weekly baseball history podcast. I've been told it's America's favorite baseball history podcast, but let's not do any research into that just yet. But I am one half of the show. My name is Jeff. Joining me, as always, from the high seas is Captain Mark A. Johnson. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well, despite a very interesting 4th of July extended weekend. It was kind of long, but doing well, back in the saddle and ready to talk baseball.
I'm hoping the 4th is on Wednesday next year, just because, I got Monday and Tuesday off. So I'd like to just have the whole half of the week off in preparation for the holiday. But hey, it was a good, because I think last year there was barely any games on the 4th of July. This year there was a full slate of games, so that was good. Yes. I watched a lot of baseball. Of course, we took a week off too. I took some time off. I went out of town, visited some friends, watched some minor league baseball of my own. Very excited. Got to see some live baseball. Very disappointed though in minor league baseball jerseys. Not gonna lie. Really? Yeah, so let's just tell everybody we're going to start our BP segment right now because we're just chit-chatting about baseball stuff. But I went to Salt Lake City, visit some of my friends, went to the Salt Lake Bees, as I do whenever I go there. And I've been buying hats every time I go there. All my fantasy teams are always the Salt Lake Bees, the Salt Lake Buzz. So I like to have gear to match it, even though it's Angels, the Angels AAA club. So I went in this time saying, all right, I'm ready to spend like $150 on a good jersey. I can't say this for all jerseys, but I did some looking. It seems that pretty much all minor league jerseys are just silk screened button down jerseys now.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I didn't buy anything because I like to have that stuff sewn on. Like I like it to feel like I've spent some money for something. I couldn't put down the money for just silkscreen stuff. And
I get that, man, for sure.
And I was wondering, is that just all they sell? But no, that's what both teams were wearing on the field, where it was the silkscreen stuff. So very disappointing. Let's see. We got some other stuff. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on after taking a week off. The Altoona Curve. We've talked about them before. We figured out what the curve actually meant. It's in reference to a railroad section. The Altoona Curve has got one of those unique minor league giveaways to draw fans. I guess they already had it. They had it like a week or two ago. They had what is called Old Stuff Giveaway Night.
Old stuff
giveaway night. And basically they just decided they wanted to clean out some closets and some offices. So what that meant is that you got random stuff as you came in this night. Some people got old giveaways like bobbleheads or, a hat or branded sunglasses, whatever. Other people got old trash cans and folders that were no longer being used, and pencil holders. So it was it's kind of a crapshoot, but I like it. It's probably good for the environment too.
Yeah, and it gets rid of what do we do with all this junk lying around?
Yeah.
Well, let's give it away.
Put it in a landfill, let it take forever to decompose? No, let's give it to fans so that they can keep it in their house and get cluttered.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so the Mets, my second team, have had they've turned it around here the last couple of games, but apparently Eduardo Escobar, who is a member of the New York Mets, he became a U.S. citizen recently, so he had to take the citizenship test.
Oh, I've heard those are tough.
Yeah. So here's a good story. Here's Buck Showalter talking about Eduardo's teammates were helping him study for this. So here's a good story about Eduardo taking his citizenship test.
So everybody needs to laugh. So they were kidding him, thinking he was going to mispronounce something, ask him who the first president of the United States was. And he had Esky had that devilish look on his face. He said, Ron Washington. That's beautiful, isn't it?
The forefather of infielders is what I've been told.
Ron Washington, perfect.
Let's see here. Mark, now I texted you about this. Have you looked at this? I've been kind of infatuated with this for 2 weeks since I discovered it. We had a couple of listeners have sent us notes about it as well. It's a game called the Immaculate Grid.
Oh, yeah. No, you know what? I haven't personally checked it out.
But you know what it is?
Yes.
All right. So for those that don't, this is a game that you can play on the internet. It's not an app or anything. You go to an actual website. It's called Immaculate Grid. It is just baseball. I'm probably doing it for other sports at a different URL, whatever. But it's a 3x3 grid. So there's 9 holes, right? And then on the top 3 columns, you've got usually 2 teams and then a counting stat category. And then on the left rows, it's usually 2, maybe 3 teams and maybe another counting stat. And you have to, you cross-reference them. So if the A's, the Giants, and 300 game winners are up top, and on the left side, it is the Mariners, the Angels, and MVP, you have to match that up. So where the A's meet the MVP, I have to name somebody that was on the A's that won the MVP while they were on Oakland. So you could put a Ricky Henderson there. Now, just a warning, Ricky Henderson can be used as an answer probably 5 times out of the 7 times each week that this game is available. So Edwin Jackson is also somebody you want to keep in mind, as long as you know those guys that played on a lot of teams. And then also it's just where the teams combined. It's okay, who's been on the A's and the Angels. Again, Ricky Henderson could be the answer. You can only use him once per day, but that's how you do it. You only get 9 guesses. So if you miss one, you're not going to get a perfect score.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So it's a lot of fun. It also tells you it gives you a percent when you answer it. Okay. Well, 20% of people have used that same player. And I've been having fun. I try to aim for under 5%. So I've been using Damon Berryhill. I used Rick Shue the other day. I've been getting some 0.05% even. So it's a lot of fun. It's a game. Link will be down in the show notes if you haven't already been playing this game. It's like Wordle. You get 1 puzzle a day and that's it. So take your time. It's fun. I think anybody that listens to this show will probably like it.
Very cool.
The real reason we were off for a week was to celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day.
That's right.
Of course, that happened. We're not going to cover Bobby Bonilla because we've talked about it in length in the past. I think everybody knows what's going on. But some of the other names that the Mets are also writing checks to is incredible. Still paying Robinson Cano $20 million a year. James McCann, they're still paying him $11 million a year. Eduardo Escobar, who I just mentioned, they're paying him, although maybe he was DFA'd. I don't remember. Chris Flexen, who they just traded for and then DFA'd, they owe him $4 million. Darren Ruff, who I think is on the Blue Jays, is getting paid $3 million. There's Tommy Hunter, who hasn't played in a long time, is getting paid $686,000 a year by the Mets. And as if he's not making that royalty money for the best Cy Young Award winner to rap about a Ford truck, Brett Saberhagen is still getting paid $250,000 every year by the New York Mets.
That's hilarious.
What is that? That's 8 players that I read. They could almost field a team with guys that they're paying that are not on the team.
Makes you wonder if they still owe Jerry Kuzman any money.
Or maybe Nolan Ryan. I don't know. Maybe he was.
Who knows?
Deferred way back then. Hey, new player. Matt Waldron made his major league debut for the Padres a week or so ago. Why do I bring this up, you ask?
Why do you bring that up?
There you go. He's a knuckleballer.
Oh, yeah.
Can you believe
Beautiful.
it? So he is, he's 26 years old, and that knuckleball, I believe, is his primary pitch. As the time of this recording, he has only appeared in 1 game. He got a start. He did take the loss. No wild pitches, though. let's see, he walked one, struck out two, gave up a couple of home runs. But Matt Waldron with the San Diego Padres, this is his first year in the big leagues out of the University of Nebraska. So always exciting when we get a knuckleballer back in the league.
The first one since Mickey Janis.
Is that true?
Yes. Orioles 2021.
Oh, okay. There you go. That rolled off the tip of your tongue like that's something that you say every day.
It is. I was telling my wife that yesterday.
I would have said, I don't know, R.A. Dickey? I don't know who the last one was. Hey, so I watched the K-Rod broadcast of the Sunday night game. I think it was the Mets. It was the Mets and Giants. So I was watching it, but I didn't really want to watch the main broadcast, and I couldn't, listen to Gary and Keith. So I flipped over to the K-Rod because they said, we got Kevin Mitchell coming up. I'm like, I want to hear that. So, wow, they had some great guests. They had K-Rod came on. I think Doc Gooden, it was Darryl Strawberry came on. They had a bunch of old Mets, and they were telling great stories. And I'm like, wow. I've really been missing out. I should probably listen to this all the time, even though it's A-Rod. But as soon as the players were gone and it was just Michael Kay and A-Rod watching the game, boy, it became Boomer Central. It was unwatchable.
Unwatchable.
When they did not have former players that were, especially from those 86 Mets. I mean, those are great stories. But when they do not have other players on there to talk about, it is not something I can watch. But I tried. I tried. Mark, we're going to forego debuts this week because we've got a lot to talk about in our main subject. But I didn't even look it up because I know that we've got a lot to talk about here. So we're going to let the ground crew come out, do their stuff. We took a little extra BP today because we're out of practice, and after being gone for a week. So you want to just get right into it here?
Yeah, I'm ready to rumble.
All right. So, Mark, our main topic today, this is something I've had on the list. I think maybe since before we did our first episode, I made a big, long list of topics, and something spurred this one deep within the cockles of my heart recently. So I decided to do some research. I've written this out. I've got enough. This is a long one, but I got enough, I think, already for a second part down the road. But what I want to talk about is trades that almost happened.
Ooh, very nice.
So you and I were on a podcast a while ago that gave us a big what if. The question to us was, what if Jackie Robinson, there wasn't a color barrier to break, that somebody had broken it long ago, or there just never was one. And that was fun to think of things. How history might be different. Well, I think this will provoke some good conversation here. So to start off with, let's talk about two of the biggest names at first base in the 1980s and how they almost swapped coasts. The Giants and the Yankees actually had a deal in place that said Don Mattingly to the San Francisco Giants for Will Clark.
Wow.
So the trade would have included a couple of pitchers as well. Rick Rhoden would have gone with Mattingly to the West Coast, and two lefties, Atlee Hammaker and Craig Def Leopards, would have ended up in pinstripes with Clark on the Yankees. The deal, though, was nixed when the Giants discovered that former guest of the pod and all-around just incredible human being Dave Dravecky was diagnosed with a tumor in his pitching arm. So they decided, hey, we can't lose two left-handers if we're possibly going to be losing Dravecky. So the whole deal was called off. But wow. How big of Mattingly for Will Clark, swapping teams. That's pretty impressive. That would have
been something to see, I tell you that.
Yeah, and would the Giants have been able to get to the World Series in 1989 with Don Mattingly? And got him there. Well, let's stick with the Yankees and Giants. So there's this guy called Rickey Henderson. In 1989, he was traded back to the Bay Area. He led the A's to the World Series, did some other stuff apparently. I guess he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. Barely heard of the guy, but maybe our listeners have. But he also almost ended up in the wrong uniform, though. 2 days before Rickey returned home to Oakland, he was dealt to the Giants for Candy Maldonado and Scott Geraltz.
Wow.
Now, honestly, I think that's a better haul than what the Yankees got from Oakland, which was Greg Cadaret, Eric Plunk, and Luis Polonia.
Well, you got some 4A giants right there.
But Ricky fortunately had a no-trade clause, and he nixed the deal. I don't blame him. Just think he could have been on the other side of that 89 World Series. He could, who knows? He and Mattingly could have both been in Giants uniforms. I don't know. But I mean, the Giants would obviously have won that World Series if Ricky was on that. But does Roger Craig give Ricky the green light like La Russa did? Just kind of let, go be Ricky. Or does he have somebody like Carney Lansford who can hit behind him and let him steal all those bases? Does he sign with somebody else the next year, or do the Giants re-sign him? There's a lot of reasons to think why Ricky said no to this trade. Maybe being an Oakland guy, he just hates the Giants. There's a lot to hate about him. But, they did lead the National League West for almost the entire season that year. Not by a whole lot at any point, but they were in first place the whole time. So maybe he had an inclination that the A's might be trying to get him, and that's where he would have wanted to go anyway. I don't know. But again, could have been a lot different of Ricky Henderson in a Giants jersey at Candlestick. A lot of these deals have a lot to do with the Yankees, specifically the George Steinbrenner Yankees. In 1996, in what I might say was by far the worst trade that was considered that I'm going to go through here, the Yankees were worried about handing the starting shortstop position to Derek Jeter. Rookie, never played in the big leagues before. They knew he was going to be their shortstop, but they wanted a security blanket, a parachute here. So worried, in fact, that they were looking for somebody that they could stick in every day if needed. So who's the first big league shortstop you think of in 1996? Felix Fermin. I'm sure everybody is replying.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, of course. Well, the Yankees had a prospect in the bullpen that had only thrown 67 innings in the big leagues and was wearing a 5.5 ERA at the time. So the deal was the Yankees would get Felix Fermin, and the Mariners in return would get this reliever named Mariano Rivera. Well, it didn't go through. I think the Yankees are probably pretty happy with standing pat on that one.
Wow.
I mean, again, that Mariano Rivera could have changed the entire landscape and history of the Seattle Mariners.
Absolutely. Does he become a closer? Is he what are they gonna use him for?
Yeah, I mean, he started for the Yankees when he came up. He was a starter.
Could make some major differences in baseball.
He could have nailed down that bullpen for a decade and a half of just shut down closer action.
The Mariners could have used that.
Yeah, Mike Schooler was not good. David Aardsma was, average at best. I mean,
you know what? He had a great pirate name, though. Aardsma.
Yeah, well, and he's right next to the Hank Aaron with the AA nickname or AA last name, right at the beginning of that encyclopedia. Yeah. Well, let's switch to the other team in New York, the Mets. So they, too, were in talks with the Mariners at one point. Specifically in 1999, Ken Griffey Jr. was making it known that he wanted to be closer to his family in Florida. The Reds were in the mix. That seemed logical as Griffey's hometown. His dad was a coach with the Reds at that time. And, of course, the whole history of the Griffey name in the Cincinnati Reds. But while that discussion was going on, the Mets got involved and, in fact, reached a deal in principle with the Mariners, which would have sent Roger Cedeno, Octavio Dotel, and Armando Benitez to Seattle in exchange for Griffey Jr. Like Ricky, though, Griffey had the ability to say no to this deal, and that's what he did. But that might be on the Mets a little bit. They called him, or at least I don't know if they did. The story goes like this, that Griffey got a call at 11:45 at night and gave him the deal here. Hey, you could go to the Mets, but we need your answer in the next 15 minutes. 15 minutes to make a huge decision like that they've just dropped on him. So
You're right.
that made the decision pretty easy for Junior. He said no, and the rest is history. Apparently, Houston and Atlanta were also in the mix, but none of those deals ever got to the point where they just needed to be okayed like this Mets deal was. But doing some more reading, there was actually never really a 15-minute time frame. It was all a miscommunication that cost the Mets, possibly Ken Griffey Jr. The Mets were obviously on the East Coast, Griffey was on the West Coast, and the Mariners front office was in Hawaii, which is another 3 hours behind the West Coast. So a bunch of different time zones here. The Mariners front office, they were headed out for reservations for dinner in Hawaii. And they asked, hey, somebody get back to us within 15 minutes before we leave, meaning that they would cancel their reservations if they heard back. Not that there were only 15 minutes for the deal to be closed. But this deal, or the lack of one, affected other people as well, as Todd Zeile was in talk with the Mets to play first base, or he was considering re-signing with the Rangers. He was asked to restructure his contract with the Mets in order to accommodate Griffey coming to Queens. So he took less money under the assumption that Ken Griffey Jr. was going to be on his team. He was willing to give up for that, but
wow.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this one before. The Rangers sending A-Rod to the Red Sox for Manny Ramirez and John Lester. But for this to happen, A-Rod was going to have to take a pay cut. Now, I say that, and you're probably thinking that that's why this deal didn't get done. But no, A-Rod totally willing to take a pay cut to go to the Red Sox, but the MLPA said, no, we're not going to be giving any money back. I just don't see A-Rod's personality playing well in Fenway.
Yeah, this is true. I can see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see them rooting for a guy who poses naked in front of mirrors and has like a life-size painting of himself as a centaur in his house.
And dated Madonna. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, New York fans, I can see, hey, yeah, do whatever you want. But in Fenway, I don't think that would have worked. It'd be interesting to see how that would have ended up. How about future Hall of Famer Miguel Cabrera? He might have been going into the Hall wearing an Angels hat instead of a Tigers hat.
Oof.
So in 2007, the Marlins and the Halos were in discussion, but there was just one sticking point before Miggy could become an Angel, and that was pitching. The deal was already in place for Cabrera to head west in exchange for second baseman Howie Kendrick and catcher Jeff Mathis, but the Marlins kept changing their minds on pitchers that they wanted included. They were asking for any combination of two of the Angels' top three prospects at that point. Those top three pitching prospects were Irvin Santana, Joe Saunders, and the Angels' top pitching prospect, Nick Adenhart. Well, that would have been a big haul for Miggy, but you could argue it would have been worth it. The Angels, though, thought that was just too much pitching to give up, and they never got back together on the deal. Miggy is going to go in wearing a Tigers hat now, I'm sure.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine that? The Trout Cabrera back-to-back?
Jeez.
Oh. And then you might as well throw in Ohtani.
Man, that would have been a lot of power.
Oh.
Another future Hall of Famer, Albert Pujols, was another guy who had a deal done to send him elsewhere. In 2000, the Cardinals had a deal in place to send Pujols to the Expos after just his first year in the minor leagues. They would have gotten pitcher Steve Kline and Dustin Hermanson in return.
Oh, my.
So Tony La Russa was the skipper at this point of the Cardinals. He had seen Albert for the first time that spring. And he said, absolutely not. There is no way you are dealing this guy. He is going to be a superstar. Instead, they sent Fernando Tatis to Montreal. And this is a year after Tatis had hit 34 home runs and knocked in 107 runs. So they got a good player, but certainly not future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols. Pujols ended his 22-year career with a 101.7 WAR. Tatis Sr. played 11 seasons in the big leagues and only totaled a 6.4 career WAR. What I can only assume was a rare moment of sobriety for Tony La Russa, actually thought this one through and prevented the Cardinals from making a pretty big mistake, I think.
That's frightening.
How about this one? Another Hall of Famer that almost had another hat option when going into Cooperstown was Pedro Martinez. The Expos and Cleveland had a deal sending Pedro to Cleveland for Bartolo Colon and Jarrett Wright. Cleveland, though, did not want to give up both pitchers, especially because Wright had just had a big World Series the season before. These are easy to look back on with perspective now, but I mean, in 1997, Jarrett Wright looked like he was going to be the real deal. So they said no. How about this one? George Brett as the third baseman for the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. The Reds were very close at one point to sending Tony Perez to the Royals for George Brett in 1975.
Weird.
They were trying to move Perez. They also talked to the A's about Captain Sal Bando as well.
Wow.
But ultimately, they put a guy named Pete Rose there, and I think he did okay. 1992, Barry Bonds is in the final year of his contract with the Pirates, and the Bucks knew they're not going to be able to afford him when he becomes a free agent. So on the trading block he went. Atlanta came knocking, and a deal was worked out. It was going to be Barry Bonds for Alejandro Pena and Keith Mitchell. Now, of course, this is, Bonds, it was just a rental, so that's why you're not getting that much for him. It was a done deal, though. That was until manager Jim Leyland found out about it and freaked out. Similar to La Russa. Pittsburgh went on to win the East that year. Of course, Bonds stayed. They were in contention, and losing Bonds, regardless of his contract, would have been disastrous. So Leyland went straight to the top, got it shut down. Atlanta got the last laugh, however, beating the Pirates in the NLCS that year, if that makes anybody feel any better. These are all great to talk about and imagine, what if, but there is one trade that was agreed upon that never happened, that it wasn't because a player said no. This happened, in fact, when players had absolutely no say in it. They were property of their clubs. If they got traded, sent somewhere, that was it. They had to go. If they were traded to Timbuktu for a bag of donuts and some shawarma, that was it. They had to abide by it. But this one involves two of the greatest players of all time. I mean, the absolute kings of the game. Imagine Ted Williams in pinstripes, stroking long ball after long ball into that short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium, while Joe DiMaggio terrorizes the Green Monster in Fenway.
I can't even put that into perspective, man.
I know, right? I mean, this is two giants that were almost traded for each other. This monster deal that would have literally shaken the baseball world to the core of its being. It might have very well ripped the space-time continuum, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, all of it. A deal this big could only come together in one way: alcohol. Noted racist owner of the Red Sox, Tom Yawkey, and Yankee boss Dan Topping were hanging out in 1947. You think Yawkey ever went for drinks with George Steinbrenner?
Right.
I'm guessing not. They don't think they got along. But these two were hanging out, and this swap was brought up over cocktails. I'm guessing shots of Sambuca and plenty of Cosmo martinis to go around. So they decided this has to happen. So off to the rooms they go after drinking and discussing this. In the morning, though, Yawkey probably shows up for breakfast, and Topping, and I'm just speculating here, is probably still 100% in on this deal. Topping probably had the trade all written down, signed, just waiting at the breakfast table for Yawkey like a big-eyed, excited puppy. I can see him like frantically waving his arms above his head at the table as soon as Yawkey walks into the room. Over here, Tom. Yawkey not so emboldened after sobering up and wasn't keen to literally pull off the biggest trade in sports history. I think the alcohol wore off and he had some clearer thoughts. Topping kept trying to get him to agree until finally Yawkey said that he'd do it, but the Yankees needed to sweeten the deal. Joe DiMaggio was not enough. He's like, yeah, we like DiMaggio, but we need a little bit more. The other guy that the Yankees were going to have to give up for this deal to go through, it was actually even a player to be named later is what they were going to call it, Yogi Berra.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you imagine Joe D and Yogi on the Red Sox?
I can't. It sounds like something you shouldn't even bring up.
Yeah. I wonder if their drought continues as long, into the 2000s, if that is the case. Maybe the Yankees never win a World Series until, the late 2000s as well. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
So wow. I was trying to come up with a bigger trade in any sport that has happened that could have eclipsed this Williams for DiMaggio deal if it had happened. The only thing I could think of was in hockey when Wayne Gretzky was traded to the Kings.
That's where I was going. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, 1988, the great one, and Marty McSorley went to the Kings in exchange for Jimmy Carson, Marty Gelinas, and first-round draft picks in 89, 91, and 93, plus $15 million.
Yeah.
And this is Gretzky nearing the end of his career. This is not prime Edmonton Oilers Gretzky. He still led the Kings to the finals, but you're not getting a prime time Wayne Gretzky here. But this was a huge deal. The only other one I could think of is maybe involving the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Babe Ruth trade.
Sure.
But Babe Ruth, again, was not he was a well above average pitcher and batter, but he was not the Bambino at that point, right?
No, right. Not yet.
Yeah. If anybody has any ideas, I would love to hear, just because, even the hockey one, you're sending Wayne Gretzky, but you're not getting a Connor McDavid or a Mario Lemieux in return. You're getting a lot of draft picks. Marty Gelinas went on to have a great career. I don't know who they picked with those 3 first-round draft picks. But, could there possibly be anything that compares to Ted Williams for Joe DiMaggio? Let us know.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's it. I have found about 20 other trades that I've never heard of, including a lot of guys that we talk about a lot on this show. So I think I'm going to stuff those away for a part 2 of this topic. And again, if you have got a trade that happened that even comes close to Ted Williams for Joe DiMaggio, let us know, and we'll revisit this in the near future. All right, well, that's gonna do it for the main part of the show. It is time for the final segment of the show. It is the time where we open up some old baseball cards. We assign them value, and then we determine who's best, because that's what we do here in the U.S. We always have to have a winner. So it's time to strike up the band, and it's time for Wax Pack Hero.
Wax Pack Hero! Gotta pull a Wax Pack Hero! Don't stop till his eyes. On the podcast tonight.
This week, Mark, we're going to open up some more of these 1991 score cards, looking at the scoreboard up there, the giant one in center field that has eclipsed the New York Mets board at Citi Field. We now have the largest here at Two Strike Noise.
Of course.
Congratulations to us. It looks like I am up by 7-6. So if you are new here, we are going to open up a couple of packs of baseball cards. We are going to take the Baseball Reference War of the Year of the Cards. Like I said, these are 1991. We're going to add those up. We got a couple of things that can add or subtract to that total, though. If there's anything on the player's face, that means glasses, mustache, eye black, another mustache. I don't know. They could have 2 mustaches on. They're going to get credit for each of those, 1/10 of a point for each of those. If it's a good Wade Boggs, Keith Hernandez mustache, we do have the discretion to add an extra 1/10 of a point onto them. If they're wearing real stirrups, where we can see sanitary socks, you get an extra 1/10 of a point. But if they're wearing the 2-in-1s, that's a minus a 1/10 of a point. If they won an award that year, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, MVP, Gold Glove, or were an All-Star, that's a 1/2 a point each for each of those awards. If there's a Hall of Famer on the card, whether they are the focus of the card or not, that's an extra point as well. If there is a Ricky Henderson or a Nolan Ryan in either of these packs, no matter who pulls it, if Ricky comes up, I get 5 points. If Nolan Ryan comes up, Mark, you get the 5 points. If the player has appeared in the Mitchell Report or was suspended at any point during their career for PEDs, that is a minus 1/2 a point, because that's not cool. We don't appreciate that. And Mark, we're each going to pick a team, and similar to Ricky and Nolan, if my team comes up in any pack, I get a 1/2 a point of war, and if your team comes up, you get a 1/2 a point of war. So who would you like to pick this week?
I'm going with the Padres.
All right,
and I don't really have a reason.
All right, you don't have a reason for the Padres. Well, maybe because they've got a knuckleballer in their rotation now.
That could be it. Maybe I'm just subconsciously pulling for the knuckleballer.
All right. Well, I think I'll go for the Mets then, just because we talked about Bobby Bonilla Day and their haphazard spending and their less than stellar record at this point. All right. So I've got 2 packs here, Mark. I've got one in my left hand, one in my right hand. Which one would you like?
I'm going to go with the right hand.
All right. So let's open this up, and I'm going to have you go first. So this is quite a way to start out your pack.
Okay.
Leading off for you is a pitcher with the Texas Rangers. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's wearing real stirrups.
Oh, my.
Wow. How, I don't know that that's a good sign for me.
It's because I went with the right pack, and he's a right-hander. That's the only reason.
No, this is a left-hander. It's actually Gaylord Perry. No, and just kidding. It's Nolan Ryan. Oh, yeah. So you're going to get a lot of points for this, just right off the bat. 1991, 44 years old, Nolan Ryan still went 12-6 with a 2.91 ERA in 27 starts. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Only 173 innings, though. I think he spent some time on the old Advil list here, because that's definitely a dip down. Still 203 strikeouts, and led the league in whip and hits per 9. That's incredible.
Jeez.
And overall, that is going to equal a WAR of 5.2. Plus, He's Nolan Ryan, so that's 10.2. He's a Hall of Famer, so that's 11.2. And he's got real stirrups, so that's only an 11.3 to start out with. I think that beats your entire total from last week.
Now, if I would have picked the Rangers as my team, imagine that.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm just going to say that. All right.
That was a good start.
Yeah, that was a very good start. All right, next, you probably get some good numbers from this. It is none other than Jose Canseco.
Oh, very nice. Except for the Mitchell Report part.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you keep reminding me of that, even though I mentioned it earlier, because I keep forgetting to add that on here. But Jose Canseco, 17 years in the big leagues, 9 with Oakland, and then a bunch of others. He's another good guy to remember for the Immaculate Grid. So is Fred McGriff. He played on a lot of teams with a lot of guys.
Sure.
Let's see. In 1991, Canseco with Oakland. He would be traded from Oakland to Texas the next year. But in 91, he led the league with 44 home runs, 122 RBI, 266 average, 359 on base, a 157 OPS plus. He was, he got MVP votes, but was not the MVP. No other awards that year, but he still had a 5.3 WAR. Wow. Good news for you is I can't see his stirrups, because we know he'd be wearing the 2-in-1s there. He was mentioned quite a bit on the Mitchell Report. So that's going to bump you down to 4.8. Still not too bad. We're not going to talk a whole bad about we're not going to talk a whole bad about Jose Canseco. I do want to just mention his one pitching outing in 93 with Texas, where obviously in this one inning he threw where he gave up 2 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, and walked 3 for an ERA of 27. That is, of course, where he hurt his elbow. Did he have to have Tommy John surgery for that.
I can't remember specifically. I just remember it was a really good idea to send him out there.
Yeah. So that did not end well for Mr. Canseco. If you are in Las Vegas, though, you can get your car washed by his company. I think he owns a couple of car washes, and he can also he's available to pay to go play golf with, where he can talk to you about Bigfoot and aliens.
Nice.
Bunch of stuff going on there. All right, you're at 16.1. Your next card is here with the White Sox. Definitely got real stirrups on. He's got a mustache, and he's got eye black on. It's going really well for you at this point. It is shortstop for the White Sox, Ozzie Guillen.
Very nice.
16 years in the big leagues, 13 with the White Sox, 2 with Atlanta when I was there, and then 1 for Tampa and part of 1 for Baltimore. In 1991, good news for you, All-Star for Ozzie Guillen. 154 games, hit 273, 284 on base. That is
wow,
low.
Not so good.
No. Let's see, overall, 3 home runs, 49 RBI, 21 stolen bases, caught 15 times.
Also not so good.
Wow, that is the final of 4 consecutive years where he was caught in double digits, 13, 17, 17, and 15. In 1990, he only stole 13 bases, but was caught 17.
Dude, quit running.
I know. The first base coach literally needs to just hold on to the back of his belt there and just say, stay here. Overall, 74 OPS plus. That is good for a 2.1 WAR. He was an all-star, so that'll be 2.6. 2.9 after the stirrups, mustache, and eye black.
I will take it nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's... definitely a controversial figure. He speaks his mind.
Yeah.
But no Mitchell report for Ozzie. He does studio analysis for NBC Sports Chicago before and after White Sox games right now. I've heard his name also come up in terms of managing again.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he was he managed the White Sox when they won the World Series, right? In 2005.
I believe so.
Yeah, and then he managed 1 year in Miami, which did not go well. But I've heard his name kind of thrown around as being another managerial candidate. Also, a bunch of other things we're not going to talk about. He might even need to go in the no talk. Do not discuss this. Let's see. But you are, after just a couple of cards, you're at 19 even. This is going to help you as well. Fortunately for me, it's my team. It's the closer for the Mets, a left-handed closer for the Mets, a hometown boy. Let's see what he's listed at 5'10", 185. Wow. John Franco.
As you mentioned, one of the rare lefty closers.
Definitely a rarity. I've got him on my Diamond Dynasty team on the show this year and kind of bounce back and forth between he and Lee Smith because I just don't like having a lefty closer. But
right, exactly.
2 times Rolaids Relief Man of the Year, 4-time All-Star. Franco, 21 years in the big leagues, 14 with the Mets, 6 with Cincinnati, and then 1 with Houston to round out his career. In 1991, he went 5-9 with a 2.93 ERA for the Mets. 30 saves, 55 innings, 45 strikeouts, a 126 ERA plus, and that is good for a WAR of only 0.1. Now, he does... Oh, those are definitely... I'm going to say those are real. Those are too thick. I'll give you that. So that'll be a 0.2. I'm going to even give you 0.2 on the mustache. That's a good-looking mustache right there. So that'll be a 0.4. But he is on the Mets, so that's going to be a minus 0.5 for you. So that'll be minus 0.1 overall. That's a lot of math, I know, and I apologize.
That's too much for one player. You lost me, so I just believe you.
Let's see. Oh, I forgot. I didn't even mention it when I was giving the rules that pop culture references also are in play. Now, he appeared in an episode of Pros versus Joes. Yeah, that's it. That's all of the... That's all of the information we have here. I think we've talked about this. Through his career, Franco supplied tickets to members of the Bonanno crime family.
Nice.
So no suggestions that he was involved in the mafia at all, but that was in violation of Major League Baseball rules forbidding contact with known criminals.
Uh-oh.
So there you go.
424 career saves, the most for any left-hander.
I don't doubt that at all. I also think, looking at John Franco, I think that's who inspired Bobby Valentine's disguise in the dugout.
It could have been.
It's a good look there. All right, next you've got a rookie prospect for the Red Sox, Darryl Irvine.
Not familiar with this name.
Nor am I. So let's see. Well, for 3 years in the big leagues, all of it with Boston. The most number of games he appeared in was 21 in 1992. In 91, he appeared in 9, had no record, a 6.0 ERA, 18 innings pitched, 25 hits allowed, and only 8 strikeouts for a 73 ERA plus, and that is a WAR of minus 0.2.
Ouch.
Nothing else on this card is going to help you out, but I like the direction that you're headed. I'm not going to lie.
Things have changed since the first inning.
Let's see. He was drafted in the 3rd round in 84 by the Sox, did not sign. Drafted in the 2nd round in 84, the supplementary draft by the Blue Jays, and did not sign. And then in 85, the Red Sox picked him in the 1st round, and he eventually ended up signing with them. All right. So you're at 18.7. Next, we've got we've got another rookie prospect. He had a good career. Here he is, catcher for the Brewers, Tim McIntosh.
You know, all that matters about this guy is he was a ham fighter.
Oh, he was. Well, yeah, that's... Should that... I think maybe next time we'll give some NPB love. Maybe just ham fighter specific, or maybe we'll just say if you played for an entire season. If you didn't leave your Japanese team high and dry. How about that?
I like that.
Let's see. Overall in the big leagues, 5 years, 4 with Milwaukee, and then some time with Montreal and the Yankees. In 91, he appeared in 7 games, hit .364, had a home run. It was a solo job because he only has 1 RBI, 197 OPS plus, but a WAR of 0.1. Nothing's going to help you on this card. I can't see his stirrups, so that'll just be a positive 0.1 for you. All right, so let's see. You've got 2 cards left, and you're currently at 18.8. I like this pitcher for the Mets, my team, Julio Valera. Let's see. Valera ended up pitching for 5 years in the big leagues, 2 with the Mets, 2 with the Angels, 1 with the Royals. In 1991 with the Mets, he only appeared in 2 games, no record, only 2 innings pitched, and that is a WAR of 0.1, but he's on the Mets. Oh, but he's got a mustache, too, so that's 0.2. But the minus 0.5 will give you a minus 0.3 on him.
Nice job, Valera. He was traded by the Mets to the Angels for Dick Schofield.
Oh, Dick Schofield. I like that. So who do you think, in his brief stints in the big leagues, who do you think hit him the most?
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, I don't see him anywhere on the top of this list. I just did a quick search here. George Brett went 8 for 11 against Julio Valera.
Wow, that's throwing batting practice.
Yeah, that's a 727 clip. Let's see. Brandy Milligan went 3 for 7 with 2 home runs off him. Dave Henderson went 2 for 6. Those were both 2 home runs. And Roberto Alomar went 6 for 16 with 2 home runs off him. So,
well, good for him not giving up more than 2 home runs to one player.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where the buck stopped with Julio Valera. All right, so you're down to your last card, and it's an Angels pitcher. It is Joe Gray. Gray, Grahe. Why do you have to spell your name weird like that? I have a hard enough time knowing how to spell Gray if it's Gray or Grey as it is. And then you spell it like this?
I don't know.
Hi, Joseph.
This makes it difficult for the rest of us.
Yeah. Think about us for once. Let's see. 7 years in the big leagues, 5 with the Angels, 1 with Colorado, 1 with Philadelphia. In 91... with the Angels, he went 3-7 in 18 games, 4.81 ERA, 73 innings pitched, 84 hits, 40 strikeouts, 86 ERA plus, and that is a WAR of 0.5. He definitely has real stirrups on here, so that'll be a 0.6. I'm going to guess that Joe Gray doesn't have any pop culture references, but I don't want to say that without looking it up.
All I know is he struck out Jose Canseco for his first big league strikeout.
Yep, I think that says it all.
There you go.
All right, Mark, so that is your pack. That is a 19.1, which I think is a very good total. That you realize more than half of that is Nolan Ryan, your very first card.
Yeah, but I mean, that seems proper.
Yeah, well, for you.
For me, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe there's a Ricky Henderson somewhere in this next pack.
Maybe.
All right, so let's see here. All right, 19.1 is what I am going for here. I'm going to start off with a pitcher for the Brewers. It is Teddy Higuera. I like that Teddy said, you know what? I am a grown man, but I still want you to call me Teddy. I mean, Ricky.
Teddy Roosevelt, you know?
Yeah, I'm here for it. Let's see. Overall, 9 years in the big leagues, all of it with Milwaukee. Teddy Higuera, did he throw a no-hitter at once? I want to say in like 85 or 86, maybe 87. Yeah, we always think about this. It's always somebody for the Brewers threw a no-hitter during that time, and we always forget who it is. Let's get through this first, though. In 91, he went 3-2 with a 4.46 ERA, 36 innings, 37 hits, 33 strikeouts, a 91 ERA plus, and that is good for a 0.3 WAR. Nothing else on this card is going to help me out. Wow, in 86, he was an all-star, came in second in the Cy Young, and had a 9.4 WAR for the year.
Wow.
That is pretty good. So that no-hitter, not Teddy Higuera. It was Chris Bosio, right? That's who we always...
Bosio threw for the Mariners, though.
Oh, well, then who am I thinking of? I know there's somebody.
Maybe it was Robin Yount.
That's probably who it was, yeah. All right, so that doesn't help me out. I'll start out with a 0.3, but I guess it's better than a negative. Next, we've got a pitcher for the Bucks, Ted Rest in Power. 13 years in the big leagues. Wow, a lot of teams. He's a good guy for immaculate inning. 6 with the Reds, and then a bunch of other teams, including the Mariners in 1993 for his final season, where it doesn't look like he pitched that bad. What's up with that?
Don't know.
And why didn't they re-sign him? Well, this is good. Ted Power's nickname is listed as Teddy as well. So I've had 2 Teddys so far. In 91, with the Reds, he went 5-3 with a 3.62 ERA, 87 innings pitched, 87 hits, 51 strikeouts, 106 ERA plus, and that is good for a WAR of 0.8. Tell me those are real. Oh, he's got a mustache. That's 0.9. I don't think those are real stirrups, though, so I'll just stick with 0.8. All right, next, I've got outfielder here for the Baltimore Orioles. It is Mike Devereaux. 12 years in the big league, 7 with Baltimore, 3 with the Dodgers, 1 with Texas, Atlanta, and the White Sox. You're right, he came up with L.A. in 87 and 88, and then his final year in 98, he also appeared in a handful of games for the Dodgers. In 91, for Baltimore, 149 games, 260 average, 313 on base, 19 home runs, 59 RBI, 16 stolen bases, and a 108 OPS plus. And that is good for a 4.9 WAR from Mike Devereaux.
I did not see that coming.
I did not either. Wow, they love their 2-in-1s here. Mike Devereaux has a mustache, but he's got the 2-in-1, so those will wash out, and I will take a 4.9. That's half of a Nolan Ryan card right there. Let's see, a member of the 95 Atlanta World Series team, born in Casper, Wyoming. I'm betting there's not a lot of big leaguers from Casper, Wyoming.
Maybe a couple dozen. That's it.
Oh, I think that might even be a little high, but
3 dozen?
So you went up?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, 3 is what I was thinking. Looks like he joined Masson as a part-time on-screen host this year. 6 even after a couple of cards. Here is the brother of a current major league manager. I believe he is the bench coach for the Yankees right now, maybe third base. I don't know. It's Joey Cora here with the Padres. Oh, no, and that's your team.
Yep.
Now, I know Joey Cora was on the Mariners. That I am sure of. Let's see. 11 years overall in the big leagues. 4 years with the Mariners and White Sox, 3 with the Padres, and 1 with Cleveland. In 1991, his first year with the White Sox, appeared in 100 games, playing up the middle in the infield. Hit .241, .313 on base. No home runs, 18 RBI, and 11 stolen bases, a 66 OPS plus. That is good for a WAR of 0. Now, he's on the Padres, so that's a minus 0.5. He does have flip downs, but he also has the 2-and-1s. So those will wipe out, and I'm afraid I'm just going to get a minus 0.5 for being on the Padres.
Oh, the nerve.
Let's see. First round draft pick by the Padres in 1985. Moving on, pitcher for the. Oh, I love when we get Expos cards, and this is a horizontal card too. This is a good looking card. Pitcher for the Expos, Tim Burke. 8 years in the big leagues, 7 with Montreal, 2 with the Mets, 1 with the Yankees. In 1991, he split time between Montreal and the Mets. Overall, he went 6-7 with 3.36 ERA, 101 innings pitched, 96 hits, 59 Ks, and a 1.09 ERA plus. And that is good for a WAR of 0.4. He definitely has real stirrups on here. They are pulled up nice and taut. So that will be a 0.5. So I have essentially just recovered the Padres.
Yes. Now, we've talked about this before. He was in the Jeff Moore in the Distance music video, Home Run.
Yep. I knew we had talked about him. I knew we had talked about him. Couldn't hum that song to save my life. Also authored the book Major League Dad, the moving story of an all-star pitcher who gave up baseball for his family.
That is moving.
He's adopted children, one from Korea and one from Vietnam.
Oh,
and
wow.
one from Guatemala. I guess he's... let's see. I have got 3 cards left. I have got one of my all-time favorite players. Unfortunately, at this point, he's on the San Diego Padres.
Wow.
He's got a mustache. He's got eye black. He has got real stirrups, and he's got flip-down sunglasses. So that pretty much wipes away almost all of the Padres' money there. That's a positive 0.4. So I'm just going to start out at a minus 0.1 for Mike Palerulo. Pags, 11 years in the big leagues, 6 with the Yankees, 3 with Minnesota, 2 with the Padres, and then 1 for the Rangers and the Orioles. In 1991 with Minnesota in 121 games, he hit .279, .322 on base, 6 home runs, 36 RBI, a 91 OPS plus, and that is good for a WAR of 2.7.
Nice.
So I'll get a positive 2.6 out of that. Let's see, a member of the 91 World Series team that in Minnesota, so he got a ring. My second to last card here with the Cubs, good news, mustache, real stirrups, eye black, and flip down sunglasses. So there's a positive 0.4. It's Schwan, our favorite Schwan, our only Schwan.
Shawan Dunston and the Shawanometer.
Name me another famous Schwan.
Shawan? Yeah, I don't know of any.
We'll dive into that here in a minute, but let's see. Big arm, really big arm, Sean Dunston. 18 years in the big leagues, 12 with the Cubs, 4 with the Giants, and then a bunch of other teams. Let's see. In 1991 with Chicago, 142 games, hit .262, .292 on base. He does not walk. 12 home runs, 50 RBI, 21 stolen bases, a 92 OPS plus. And overall, that'll equal a 1.8 WAR plus the 0.4 of a point for all the good stuff will be a 2.2. I'm not even going to come close to you here. I'm just getting nicks and just little bites to eat here. I'm not getting any substantial scores.
Don't give up.
Well, I can see what my final card is.
There's hope. Oh, there's no hope? Okay.
No. First round draft pick by the Cubs in 82. Was traded for Joe Table, a.k.a. Joe Mesa, in 98.
Bill James noted that Dunston was an eternal rookie, a player who continued until the end of his career to make rookie mistakes.
Wow. That is tough. Yeah.
Ouch.
One of his 3 daughters became the White Sox director of minor league operations last year. That's cool.
Well, that's cool.
All right, so I'm at 10.8. You, again, 19.1. So I need a big card here. Now, the question is, will Jeff Treadway be able to deliver?
I'm sure he will.
Let's see. Jeff Treadway, 9 years in the big leagues, 4 with Atlanta, 2 with the Dodgers and Reds, and then 1 with Montreal and Cleveland. In 1991, for Atlanta, 106 games, 320 average, 368 on base, 3 home runs, 32 RBI, a 116 OPS plus, and that is good for a WAR of 1.2. Now, let's see here. He's got definite real stirrups, and he has got eye black on. So that'll be a 1.4. Now, if we were using last year's rules, he does have a double flap batting helmet on.
Oh, wow.
But that still wouldn't have helped me a whole heck of a lot. So we've mentioned this before. Jeff Treadway successfully completed the hidden ball trick twice in his career.
Now, that's tough.
Now, the question is that worth 7 points of WAR?
Well, let me look. Hold on, I got the rules.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bylaws. The bylaws say
you
yes.
have to have 3.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah,
okay. Must have been updated.
It's right here. Hidden ball trick has to be performed at least 3 times.
Shoot. Yeah, and I must have signed off on that being the commissioner. All right. Well, darn it. That leaves me with a loss. I ended up with 12.2. Your score of 19.1. That'll even us on the scoreboard at 7 apiece. We're level going into the All-Star break.
Wow. It's a battle.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations, Mark. That's going to wrap up this edition of Wax Packs Heroes. Also going to start to wrap up the show. Thank you again, as always, for listening to us and allowing us to take a week off. Enjoyed it. Had a lot to talk about when we came back here. If you want more of us, you can find us on all the socials. Guess what? We are even now on Blue Sky and on Threads. So if there is... I can think of one social media that we're definitely not on, but all the other ones we're on. We're trying to get off the Bird. I haven't been on the Bird app for quite a while, so if you're going there, don't expect a whole lot. But all the others, you can find them all down in the show notes if you want to get in contact with us. Also, we have an email address that we subscribe to all the email providers, right, Mark? So they can two-strike noise anywhere and it'll get to us.
That's right. All you got to do is, or for snail mail too, just write on the envelope 2-strike noise. It'll find its way here.
Yeah.
But you can write to us if you want to be very specific. Spell it out, 2strikenoise@gmail.com.
Okay. If you want to do it the hard way, you can do it that way. Seems like some extra characters you need to type, but if you want to be sure we get it, maybe. All right. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you again for listening. Mark, I'm going to put us down on the calendar for next week to do this again.
All right. Let's do it again. What the heck?
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week on the next episode of 2 Strike Noise.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day.